So our first position that we're going to hear from is literary manager. So Jessa has sent in her little speech about what it's about her experiences of being the literary manager this year. And obviously this was a new role. So Jessa has been the first ever Theatre with Teeth literary manager that exists. So Jessa says that being literary manager for Theatre with Teeth this year has been an incredible experience. As a new role, it's been lots of fun to figure out what this role really requires and how it can support Theatre with Teeth. Through Bite, timely submissions, and even the 24-hour plays, it has become very clear to me that Exeter is full of phenomenal writers, and I've had the pleasure to read some of the best plays I have ever read in this process. This year, your plays have made me laugh, cry, get angry about issues that matter, and often feel very intimidated by the calibre of work. We are so lucky to have a community full of hard-working, inspiring creatives, and I have no doubt that our Theatre with Teeth writers, whether their work is well known or scarcely shared, will go very far. The most important thing for a literary manager to be is encouraging, friendly, to challenge writers and to help motivate creatives to produce work that they are proud of. I have no doubt that whoever takes over Bite will be able to create a welcoming, exciting environment where people feel safe to share their work and try new things. Working with others on their artistic babies can be difficult to balance when they live within their work and you are only visiting, but it is so rewarding to be invited into the process. Good luck to the candidates. So without further ado, we will be hearing from Katie Dunbar and Nellie Weston as literary managers.
Hi, I'm Katie and I'm running for literary manager next year for Theatre with Teeth's committee. So I have quite a bit of experience with Teeth. I've done lots of different roles. So I've been in prod teams and I was also the assistant production manager for me myself. But one of the first things that I ever did was go to a Bite session. And I absolutely love these. They are amazing. They really helped me to develop my writing. And so I would like to do the same next year for other people. So I take English, so I have quite a bit of experience with creative writing and I feel like I've learned a lot from the Bite sessions this year. So I've got lots of session ideas planned for finding inspiration and prompt ideas because I feel like when you first start out that is quite difficult. But then also I've got a couple of ideas about developing dialogue and setting and thinking about how writing transforms and how it's staged for more sort of advanced writers. The biggest thing about the Bite sessions is I'd like to create sort of a community and family within them. And so in order to do that, I'd like to create a buddy system or sort of a family system in which older writers, more experienced writers kind of come to the Bite sessions too and team up with the beginners writers just so people can get some more advice and more feedback because I feel like that's the most important thing. And also people who, especially those who've had shows put on, can come and sort of discuss what their sort of ideas were and how they went about their process. My other idea is having sort of workshops / a showcase so that people's developing work can be put on and interpreted by actors so that they get a chance to see it on stage whilst they're still writing it so it can be developed. Because I feel it's quite difficult when you're an individual by yourself writing to think about how it's going to come out at the end when it's on stage. So those are my ideas. Yeah, thanks.
So, sometimes sharing work can be sensitive. So how do you think that you might handle a situation where someone asks for feedback on work within a Bite session that comes across as sexist?
I would probably ask them to email me the work and we'd have like a one-to-one meeting about it, just because it is obviously quite a controversial topic within a session with lots of other people. So I'd probably just have a one-to-one meeting with them, and in that I would discuss how maybe it was inappropriate and show them why it was inappropriate and how we could maybe adapt it so that it wouldn't be so.
Brilliant. So hypothetically, 20 scripts are submitted for first term and you need to read all of them. How would you manage and delegate to ensure that every play is read carefully and that feedback can be given to unsuccessful writers?
So I would probably ask to put a team together so that I could read each script, and those that I felt maybe needed secondary consideration or those that were particularly strong, I would ask other committee members to read them as well. And then I would obviously delegate for those that were unsuccessful so that everybody receives written feedback.
Brilliant. Cool, thank you.
I'm Mel Weston and I'd really like to be literary manager for your society next year. I'm a writer. I consider myself a writer. I wrote a play over the summer and I was lucky enough to have it selected for the Fringe Show by this society this year, and I'm so thankful for that, and I really just want to repay the favour by being in the crux of the writing process at this society, as it's what makes our society so great, and I just want to make sure that as many new writers as possible are being represented and are having their work showcased. I have writing experience, obviously me myself, but I also was head script editor and one of the dramaturgs for the Changeling, which we did for staging the text. We basically dismantled the entirety of the Changeling and rebuilt it line by line, so we had to make sure it was cohesive and made sense as a story arc, and I also had to do that while communicating with other people, which I think is really useful for this role, as it means I would have to talk to writers and make sure that, yes, a script was cohesive and made sense for the society, but also was representing what the writer wanted, as it ultimately it's their baby, and I think I have experience for that. Also, in terms of bite workshops, that's what's really great this year, is that we had the Me, Myself Scratch Night along with bite scratches, and it meant that more and more people than ever were having their new writing showcased in some way and given feedback on, which is so helpful because it encourages people to write in the future and is potentially making the next great playwright in our society. And I just really want to optimise on that by making sure that, as well as keeping the bite workshops inspiring through different workshops and different ideas, but by making sure that we have more and more 2-in-1 nights and more scratch nights, are partnered with our other term 1, term 2, term 3 shows to make sure that these writers are not only getting their work showcased, but seeing their work progress through the terms and seeing their writing progress through the terms, to encourage them to write in the future and to write for our other shows next year or the year after or the year after, because writing is what makes our society great, and it really is my passion and it makes me so excited.
Okay, so sometimes sharing work can be sensitive. So how do you think that you might handle a situation where somebody asks for feedback on work during a bite session, which potentially comes across as sexist?
Okay, so first of all, I'd make sure that any feedback was shared individually and was very private from anyone else in the group, to make sure that it is, as sensitive as possible. And at first, I'd just bring up the matter. I'd bring up the matter to them, and I'd talk to them privately, and I'd explain why I thought it was sexist, and I'd ask what their thoughts on me giving them that feedback were, to make sure we're on the same page. And I'd just be completely honest with them, because the thing is, if you're submitting plays that do have sexist content or sensitive content in any way, then it will need to be dealt with at some point. So I'd make sure I'd be honest with them, but I'd make sure I wouldn't play a blame game. I wouldn't make them feel necessarily overly guilty or upset about it. I'd just make it very clear and maybe advise, if I could pinpoint the specific ways in which it was being sexist in any way, I'd talk to them about it and see if they could, and to help them in ways to adapt it, to make sure that whatever they were trying to communicate was in fact being communicated instead of what actually happened in their script.
Great. Next question. So, 20 scripts are submitted for first term and you need to read all of them. How would you manage and delegate to ensure that every play is read carefully and feedback can be given to unsuccessful writers?
Okay, well, obviously I'd have to read all of them, but committee would also read them, and I'd delegate so they were split equally amongst committee members as long as everyone was available. And I'd just, honestly, I love reading scripts, so I'd have to kind of compartmentalise it and just chip away at it quite gently over as much as I could. Obviously, I'd set up a way in which everyone in the committee could give feedback, so it was as everything could be as detailed as possible, having as many people giving feedback as possible, and I'd read through all that feedback to make sure I understood what everyone else thought of them, and I'd also make sure that I just chipped away at them gently. In terms of giving everyone feedback, It's kind of it's what has to be done. It will be hard if there's that many scripts, but that's what we want and that's what we want to see. So I'd take everyone else on committee's feedback into account as well, which will help the process anyway. And I'd just chip away at it. It's what I like to do, and it's what we want to do is make sure that everyone's writing is being helped by our committee as much as possible. So I'd make sure that everyone got as much feedback as necessary, and that I take everyone in committee's feedback into account just to kind of lessen the load. But ultimately, I try and read all of them as much as possible.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next role we've got is General Secretary and Company Welfare Officer. And this year that has been Molly Blake. She joined us later on in the year. And this is what she has to say. I've had such an amazing time on committee as General Secretary and Welfare Officer. It's such a fab role to get anyone started with being on a committee, as it's not as hands-on as some of the other roles. Nonetheless, it's still just as important in committee, as you are the person that keeps everyone on track by typing the meeting minutes, booking the meeting rooms each week, and other rooms required. The committee this year welcomed me with open arms and have all been so helpful with any questions or queries I may have had. And honestly, it's such a shame that committee this year is ending like this. I will miss everyone. Yes, we will miss you too, Molly. But the candidates for General Secretary and Company Welfare Officer is Katie Dunbar.
Hi, my name's Katie and I am running for the Secretary and Welfare Officer role. So I have quite a lot of experience with Teeth. I've done marketing, fundraising, and I was the assistant production manager for me myself. I also was a little reluctantly in a 24-hour show. So I have a clear understanding of how extracurricular theatre works at Exeter. I've been in meetings taking minutes. I've also been doing lots of booking on Kronos, and I'm a really organised individual. Like, I pride myself on being organised on time, and I love a spreadsheet and I love some colour coding, so I feel like I've got the skills required for the role. Things that I would like to do is I'd love to enhance a sense of community within Teeth. So 2 ways that I would do this is by having a newsletter or blog so that different teams and casts can post updates and keep up to date with one another. And another thing that I'd like to do is have some socials so that everyone can kind of meet each other and socialise within different shows. So I would have sort of more relaxed coffee mornings where people can just meet up and have a chat, as well as sort of bigger, more traditional socials like pub quizzes and sort of maybe a couple of nights out, just so people can have fun and get to know other members of Teeth. And then on welfare side, I would like to think that I'm a really friendly and warm person that people feel they can come to. I like to think I'm quite approachable. And so I feel that I would like to be really present in rehearsals, pop into a couple of prod meetings so people can tell me anything that they need to, if they've got any problems, questions, queries. And then I'd also like to set up a confidential email that I'll pop at the bottom of the newsletter and on Instagram and things like that, just so if people don't feel comfortable coming up to me in person, they can just email me and I'll be happy to help. And I'd also like to offer to help teams in the busy final weeks leading up to productions. Just if I can do anything, I'm happy to help out. So yeah, that's everything.
How would you deal with a welfare issue within the committee?
I would probably speak to the individual by themselves. Obviously, if they were comfortable with that, either face to face, probably go for a coffee or a cup of tea, so it's a relaxed atmosphere away from everyone else. Or if they didn't want to do that, I would ask them to email me about an issue that they were having, and then deal with it with them away from the committee. And then, if need so, sort of have a committee meeting in which we can discuss the issue all together in a comfortable environment. Once they're okay with that, and their welfare is obviously the biggest concern at the time first, but once that's done, like, we need to sort of work as a team and make sure that they feel comfortable.
Brilliant. And could you tell us a scenario when you have had to be very well organised?
So when I've been the assistant production manager for me myself, I've been sort of booking the rooms and things like that. And when I've planned some fundraisers in the past as well, like managing schoolwork alongside calling companies to get sponsorships and booking rooms and organisation and things like that.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you.